have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by USA Today. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from USA Today for Tuesday, August 11th, 2026. Your reader for the first hour is Alan Blackburn. Wildfires get too familiar. Scientists are warning that the destructive burning in Spokane is a sign of more devastation to come. It didn't have to be Spokane. A fast-moving wildfire could sweep into the suburbs of any one of hundreds of cities across the United States. It's happening with increasing frequency. Paradise, Marshall, Lahaina, Los Angeles. This time it was Spokane, Washington. But scientists warn it will happen again. It's a pattern that has become uncomfortably familiar in recent years throughout the West and in other parts of the world, said Daniel Swain, a climate scientist with the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources. Although Spokane's 3 fires aren't anywhere near the largest in Washington this year, they are the most destructive. More than 10,000 acres have been burned, and more than 700 structures, including homes, businesses, and outbuildings, have been lost. An estimated 65,000 people have been forced to flee their homes. The 3 fires started August 1st and spread quickly, displaying the kind of extreme wildfire behavior experienced firefighters say they see far more often now than they did 20 years ago. They have warned for years that the fire conditions are changing. In the Pacific Northwest, where more than half the uncontained fires are burning, dangerous conditions were expected to persist, with hot temperatures and dry, gusty winds like those that helped spread the Spokane fires. Though most of the fires in Oregon and Washington have been attributed to natural causes, one suspect has been charged with arson in the Old Trails fire in Spokane. Hot, dry, and windy in the short term seems to be always be the familiar trigger, and also pre-existing severe to extreme drought, Swain said in a briefing on his Weather West page. We have just been seeing that pattern unfold over and over and over again. House after house, block after block, devastation is a recurring pattern we're seeing, starting in the second decade of the 21st century, and now to continue essentially every year. When the fires burn the first house on the edge of a subdivision, and the flames start spreading from house to house, it's no longer a wildfire, said Bobby Scopa, a retired fire operations chief, author and host of Bobby on the Fire podcast, and it's an urban conflagration, she said. A U.S. Geological Survey study released in December of 2025 analyzed fires that destroyed 10 or more structures in the nation during the years 2002 to 2022. Half of those fires occurred over the most recent 7 years. Of the more than 98 fires that destroyed more than 100 homes, 2/3 hit over those 7 years. And the question is, when will the next fire reach a vulnerable community? At the moment when weather and climate conditions are at their worst. On August 6th, firefighters were working to control 86 uncontained large fires in 14 states, according to the National Interagency Fire Center. A day earlier, 100 new wildfires were reported across the country. In the early years of her 44-year firefighting career, Scopa remembers a boss on a 12,000-acre blaze telling her she might never see a fire that large again. Now a 12,000-acre fire doesn't even raise an eyebrow, Scopa told USA Today. Huge, fast-moving fires happen all the time, whereas in the old days they happened very, very seldom. Fire seasons are longer and wildfires start earlier, Scopa said, which means they can burn longer and grow larger. Fuel for the flames dries out, and that leads to more extreme fire behavior, which leads to bigger fires. The longer, more active fire seasons don't just affect those who live in the path of the flames. Heavy plumes of smoke, like those seen in the Northwestern in early August, carry the consequences of large fires well beyond their marked perimeters. One recent study found that wildfire emissions have increased so much they have erased some of the progress made in recent decades on ozone levels. A study for the Society of Actuaries found that pollutants in wildfire smoke may contribute to illness months or even years after the initial exposure. Dozens of major fires are burning in the Northwest after a record-breaking snow drought that wouldn't have been as intense or lasted as long without climate change, said Jennifer Marlin, a senior research scientist at Yale School of Environment. To be clear, the fires can't solely be blamed on any one thing, Marlin said. A combination of factors leads to the catastrophic fires, including natural weather events, climate change, and the increasing exposure and vulnerability of people and buildings in harm's way. Fire seasons are longer and droughts are more intense. Growing numbers of people are moving into woodsy areas, and people in their communities are more vulnerable and not as fire resilient as they need to be. We can't say that every event is affected by climate change, but increasingly studies show climate change is playing a role in intensifying natural weather events. It's becoming really, really obvious that the planet is warming and we are causing it. We have to do something about it. Not talking about climate change is very dangerous. Well, a suite of questions related to wildfires needs to be addressed, including forest management policies, wildfire fighting strategies, and staffing and funding. For people who live in fire-prone areas, steps can be taken to help protect their own lives and property. Strategies include roof and gutter maintenance and keeping fire-prone greenery and shrubs and mulch away from the house. Even the best protected home can be consumed by conflagrations and huge fires. Analog bags, flip phones and journals, hobbies, and more. Generation Z trend focuses on less time spent online. Analog seems to be the word of the summer. Young people are using flip phones, carrying clunky cameras, and filling up journals by hand. Hobbies like embroidery, needlepoint, and crocheting are finding new audiences through TikTok hashtags like @WhipWednesday, Work in Progress on Wednesday, and Snail Mail and Pen Pal clubs with letters are booming. This summer has brought a wave of phone-free parties, picnics, and block parties encouraging life off screens. So it's only natural that Generation Z's latest fashion statement is following suit. And their analog bags, which are tote bags filled with portable offline items like leather-bound journals, paperback books, and many watercolor palettes, are taking over the TikTok and Instagram. It's kind of like a Mary Poppins bag that I can just dig in, said Caitlin Kassler, a 25-year-old in Atlanta. This is a great trend. Honestly, it's one of the better things to come out of social media. Content creator Sierra Campbell coined the term in a TikTok last year about tips to lower screen time, and it's been spreading on social media ever since. Even though the point of the trend is to get offline what's in my analog bag videos with bouncy animated text, soft typing sound effects, and curated sticker overlay has racked up tens of thousands of views. Kassler started an analog bag as part of her New Year's resolution to spend more time away from social media and to work on her mental health. Her bag includes a pink travel mahjong set, a puzzle, a Filofax organizer, and a Louise Carmen leather-bound notebook with a cult following online. I've been really trying to take steps back because it's so easy to get consumed in TikTok and doom scrolling, Kassler says. Putting all these things together has helped me unplug and focus on real-life hobbies. Her bag currently has a cookbook, and she recently got into sourdough baking, and she always carries a Sudoku book and murder mystery puzzle book inside. The bag is as much about aesthetics as hobbies. Trending videos show patterned bags adorned with beaded charms and plushies, like Sunny Angels and Labubu dolls popping out of the sides. The L Bean boat and tote has emerged as the bag of choice, with people embroidering everything from their initials to phrases like self-care in the cotton canvas totes. The company says sales are up more than 50% this year, and the best-selling month for the product occurred this spring. The company launched limited edition analog and off-the-grid monogram boat and totes. Julia Lacayo's friends gifted her a So Julia embroidered tote for her 28th birthday, in reference to singer Charlie XCX's lyrics. The 29-year-old, who is based in New York, brings a journal for jotting down ideas, sunglasses, headphones, sunscreen, lip gloss, and a book. She's just finished Paul Murray's The Bee Sting. I'll try to go to a park. I'll try to take myself to a bar, even just to read, because if I'm trying to read up in my house, I'm so much more tempted to grab my phone. The conversation about young people's screen addiction has become more mainstream in the post-COVID-19 world, brought on like books like Jonathan Haid's The Anxious Generation, school-wide phone bans, and the U.S. Surgeon General's office warnings about loneliness and screen time. At the same time, Generation Z is increasingly nostalgic. They're struggling with decreasing social infrastructures and are disillusioned with the state of their finances, a growing political divide, and a job market overshadowed by artificial intelligence. Clay Routledge, a psychologist who studies nostalgia, says people long for a time when they're thinking about how to bring that technology of that era into their lives. Hong hits a nerve in Democratic primary. Old tweets now haunt the Wisconsin governor candidate. Wisconsin Democrat Francesca Hong is pressing the reset button ahead of the August 11th gubernatorial today's primary after leaving the door open to canceling Thanksgiving in an August 3rd CNN interview. The 37-year-old state legislator, a Democratic socialist, is the frontrunner in a crowded swing state gubernatorial field. There will be another significant test of how wide and tall the progressive wave will go in the 2026 Democratic primaries. In a November 16, 2020 social media post that Hong has since deleted, she said the country should scrap the annual Thanksgiving holiday. The event is celebrating colonialism and the diseases spread by European settlers that killed indigenous people, she said at the time. But in an August 7th interview with USA Today, she made it clear that, if elected, getting rid of the fall feast isn't on her to-do list. There's nothing more magical than being in a cranberry marsh, and cranberry stuffing is one of my absolute favorite dishes to make, Hong, a professional chef, told USA Today. I'm not going to cancel Thanksgiving, she added. Hong's candidacy has touched a raw nerve among establishment Democrats, who argue her unpolished messaging raises concerns about the visibility of her and other Democratic socialists of American-aligned candidates. Hong's troubles under the national spotlight for culture war stances continued after the CNN interview, including an unearthing of previous social media posts criticizing Valentine's Day and forever favoring abolishing the police and being uncomfortable around white people. She's not ready for prime time, and the fact that she's been asked very simple questions, and the way we should respond to those questions make the news even more cause of us all to pause. Democrat David Crowley, who's also running for Wisconsin governor, on the Democratic Senate interview, Republicans are salivating at Hong being on the November ballot. And she will likely run against Republican Tom Tiffany, who's facing nominal opposition on the GOP side. Among President Donald Trump's growing unpopularity, Republican candidates on the Badger State ballot say that a controversial Democratic nominee at the top of the other side of the ticket would give the GOP a hopeful boost. It makes it easier to contrast because we're not right versus left or Republican versus Democrat. We're literally capitalist versus communist, and that's terrifying, said Representative Derek Van Orden of Wisconsin, who's seeking re-election in a toss-up district. Hong disavows parts of the DSA platform among scrutiny. In a roughly 25-minute interview with USA Today, Hong said Americans are looking for a new type of politics, and that her campaign's success in the polls is related to a larger frustration with the country's economic woes. She said Trump's return to power and aggressive use of executive authority have awakened more progressive-minded voters and how quickly things can change. Progressives have presented not only not an alternative, but the fact that, hey, maybe it's time we do something new so we don't come back to these moments where people like him can get into power, Holmes said. But Republicans have already launched fiery responses early against the prospect of Hong being the Democratic nominee. Highlighting those old social media posts like cancel Thanksgiving, Hong said in a post on X, and then known as Twitter, should have done this in 1621. She has deleted the criticism of Thanksgiving, but others remain online. In February 2022, Hong said she missed working in a restaurant every day except on Valentine's Day, before launching into a criticism of the holiday's capitalist underpinnings. As if we weren't invisible enough to those who didn't recognize the emotional and physical labor of service work, the worst of humanity comes out from folks celebrating on another day capitalism. Capitalism tells you how to show love, she said. Hong described being on the verge of an anxiety attack at a restaurant in a social media post due to the number of old white people who didn't think we spoke English. The missteps arrive at a time when the Democratic Socialists of America platform, which includes a call to ditch the U.S. Senate, is receiving sharper scrutiny. During the discussion, Hong, who is a local member of the local Madison, Wisconsin DSA chapter, At several points said she parted ways with elements of the national platform, which the group laid out at its July convention. Among the calls for building a new society from the ground up were expanding voting rights to include all permanent residents, publicly financing elections, and expanding access to social services such as Medicare. Other aspects of that agenda include abolishing borders, prisons, and the United States Senate, which the Republicans have spotlighted as too radical for the average Americans. These people are insane, said Senator Ted Cruz in a July 27th post. Hong said that as governor, she would want to focus on delivering for people the policies that improve the material conditions of their lives. She said abolishing prisons and law enforcement, however, is not going to help us do that, especially for those struggling economically. I think when someone is unsafe for a community, that removing them from the community is a practical and sensible solution, Hong said when asked about getting rid of prisons. Hong's backpedaling on a more controversial stances becomes at a critical juncture for democratic socialists in the larger progressive moment. Wins in deeply liberal areas in New York City, Denver, and Washington, D.C. have raised their profile. Those victories are expanding in swing states such as Michigan, where Abdul El-Sayed, a progressive backed by prominent Democratic socialists, but not one himself, prevailed in the Senate primary over a more moderate opponent. That comes with sharper scrutiny and new challenges. Megan Novak, a state director for Americans for Prosperity, a conservative-leaning advocacy group, said Wisconsin's race for governor will be close no matter the contenders. She said Hong has trekked off a political cliff, which Trump won by less in a state which Trump won by less than 1 percentage point in 2024. People are concerned about the future for their kids, and we have a candidate who has now spent, 4 or 5 days flip-flopping on whether or not she likes Thanksgiving. It just shows that voters are not going to be able to trust her on the issues they care most deeply about. Conservative activists are already pummeling Hong by attacking their own plans, which include upending the nation's first taxpayer-funded private school voucher program that began in Milwaukee in 1990. Roughly 30,000 students are enrolled in schools using a voucher. According to state officials, citizens in both Crowley and Tiffany oppose changing. That's tens of thousands of children across the state, especially in Milwaukee, where thousands of mostly black and Hispanic children will be ripped out of school overnight. Peter Dreyer, a political science professor at Occidental College, said Hong is being thrust onto a much larger stage, and she's made some rookie errors in presenting herself. There's a difference between movements and campaigns. DSA is both a movement which has broad views of where they would like the country to go, and it's also got politicians that need to get elected. Sometimes those two things are in conflict. The movement part gets people excited and enthusiastic, but in a campaign you have to be a retail politician who can sell your product. In general, democratic socialism is defined as a belief that the economy should be democratically run for the benefit of the public, but opponents commonly connect it to communism, an authoritarian system associated with brutal regimes. Well, you're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 12:18. The Supreme Court faces a plea to block Trump's mail-in rules. Some states are urging voter caution with the ballots. Less than 90 days out from the midterms, election officials are pleading with the Supreme Court to block the Trump administration from making changes that would allow the Postal Service to decide who gets mail-in ballots. And after Postal Service changes earlier this year that affect how quickly mail is postmarked, some states are urging voters to be cautious when putting ballots in the mail at all. Many people expect their ballots will be postmarked the same day they place them in the mailboxes, and that's no longer guaranteed under the new rules. We, and me personally as a messaging issue, encourage people to use our ballot drop boxes rather than mail system, said Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown. It's just to avoid any potential delays or errors, or frankly at this stage, attempts to interfere by the federal government. The ballot boxes in Washington are locally controlled and operated and don't involve the federal government. We generally encourage that as the best way to get people's votes in. President Donald Trump issued an executive order in March instructing the Department of Homeland Security to compile lists of confirmed U.S. citizens eligible to vote for states to consult and order in the Postal Service only deliver ballots to voters on each state's approved mail-in ballot list. The move, part of his second-term efforts to extend more federal authority over how states run elections, and the postmarking changes, put the Postal Service at the center of a fight over who will control the House and Senate for the final 2 years of President Trump presidency. Trump, who has voted by mail himself, has zeroed in on absentee ballots, which he says, without proof, are often fraudulent. The Department of Justice has argued that a lower court acted too soon in blocking the executive order because the Postal Service has not finished writing the rules that would put it in place. Because of the pending litigation, we have no response to offer on any questions related to the executive order or the proposed rule, a Postal Service spokesperson said. The entire Trump administration will continue lawfully enacting the agenda President Trump was elected to implement, which includes the safety and security of American elections. White House spokeswoman Lauren Bitz told USA Today, "This campaign pledge from the president is why millions of Americans sent him back to the White House." Legal challenges to the executive order. After lower courts blocked the order, the Trump administration asked the Supreme Court on July 27th to allow federal agencies to implement two parts of his executive order that directed the U.S. Postal Service to create mail-in ballot rules and the DHS to compile a national database of eligible voters. Trump filed the emergency appeal after lower courts blocked the administration from creating a federal list of eligible voters and limiting delivery of mail ballots only to people on that list. The group of states that brought the lawsuit told the Supreme Court on August 3rd there would be extraordinary consequences if the Trump administration is allowed to move forward with an overhaul of mail-in voting rules so close to the election. On July 5th, a bipartisan group of more than 100 election officials filed a friend of the court brief to explain the administrative challenges if the executive order moved forward. Preparations are long underway, they said, and there would be not sufficient time to test new procedures, train election staff, and educate voters about the changes. Should this court approve the requested stay, thereby allowing the executive order to take effect within plaintiff states fewer than 100 days before a major federal election where well over 100 million voters are likely to cast ballots, the result would be chaos, they wrote. The Supreme Court could issue a decision any day. Regardless of what the Supreme Court decides, states have been working to educate voters about submitting ballots by mail earlier or returning them in drop boxes all year. That includes direct appeals like social media outreach, media engagement, radio ads, and mailers. The Postal Service updated its postmark guidelines in December of 2025 to reflect the date an envelope is first processed by an automated sorting machine rather than the date it was dropped off. In some cases, multiple days can pass between putting an item in the mail and it being processed and postmarked. For decades, the postmark, an official mark that shows where and when the mail was accepted by the Postal Service, has been used in law as proof that an individual met a deadline, such as submitting a ballot by Election Day. More than a dozen states accept ballots as long as they were postmarked on or before the election. Some Republicans fret Head Start rollback, slashing the program getting bipartisan pushback. The Trump administration's drastic regulation of Head Start, a preschool and child care program that's helped tens of millions of low-income kids, is generating bipartisan pushback in Congress, including from members within the president's own party. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert Kennedy announced August 5th that his agency is pursuing a sweeping rollback of much of the more than 100 pages of federal rules governing the multi-billion-dollar program. Among the items on the chopping block are requirements to conduct screenings for kids with disabilities, keep class sizes small, help children brush their teeth daily, and mandate monitors on school buses. Pay parity rules for staff and a ban on expelling students would go by the wayside also. Senate Republicans have expressed wariness about the prospect of slashing these standards, which advocates say help keep kids safe and healthy. We've been hearing from our Head Start folks back home that are concerned about what they're seeing, Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska said. That's something we've been monitoring. Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina, a Republican, said he explored reforms of Head Start at the state level when he was Speaker of the state's legislature years ago, but he appeared skeptical of the merits of the deregulation that's too broad. Just walking away and turning a blind eye toward, I don't think that would be a good idea, he told USA Today. The worries in the GOP are significant, especially given that meaningful pushback on Capitol Hill, especially from key Republicans in the Senate, can become one of the most effective forms of resistance to Trump administration policies. Similar objections among people like Senator Susan Collins, a Maine Republican and powerful chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, to eliminating Head Start were arguably what ultimately saved it last year. Senator Jim Justice, a Republican of West Virginia, cautioned that though he supports making improvements to the program, it's already helping a lot of kids who benefit phenomenally. When we start tweaking the stuff, a lot of times we can make it better, but there are times we can make it worse too. In Kennedy's eyes, the new effort will streamline Head Start, which serves hundreds of thousands of low-income families, and cut red tape, all while expanding the number of enrolled kids. Alex Adams, one of Kennedy's deputies, stressed on a recent call that just because they'll have fewer regulations and rules to follow doesn't mean they should ignore what works for them. Flexibility is permission, it's not a mandate. Democrats bristled at that notion. They're saying they might be able to serve more children by promising each child less. President Trump has all but declared war on Head Start, said Patty Murphy of Washington. August 12th, tomorrow, is set to be a skywatcher's dream come true. The sky is about to put on an incredible show through August, and as celestial events occur throughout the month. But one day in particular, tomorrow, will offer the ultimate stargazing experience. On Wednesday, there will be a planetary alignment early in the morning, a solar eclipse in the afternoon, a new moon at night, and the Perseid meteor shower will reach its peak. The Perseid meteor shower is considered the best meteor shower of the year. According to NASA, it can produce between 50 and 100 meteors, also known as shooting stars, in one night. On August 12th, it will peak, producing the most shooting stars. Since these celestial events also coincide with the new moon, skies will be extra dark and the moon's light won't interfere as much. Here's what to know. Tomorrow, the following celestial events will occur. A planetary parade, also known as planetary alignment, including 6 planets will be visible in the hours before sunrise. A partial solar eclipse will be visible in U.S. states from Alaska to North Carolina, beginning at about 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and the maximum eclipse will be at 1:46 p.m. Eastern Time. Remember, you will need special solar eclipse to safely view this. The Perseid meteor shower peaks from the evening of August 12th to the morning of August 13th. There will also be a new moon, which will make the night sky ideally dark. The USA will not see a total solar eclipse. The August total solar eclipse will be only visible from Greenland, Iceland, Spain, Russia, and parts of Portugal. Residents in some U.S. states will be able to see a partial eclipse using specialized glasses. In the United States, the sun will look like a cookie with a small bite taken out of it. New York and Pennsylvania and New Hampshire and New Jersey will be among the states with a partial solar eclipse. On the morning of August 12th, tomorrow, 6 planets will align and look like they're parading across the night sky. The following planets will be visible in the hours leading up to sunrise: Jupiter, Mercury, Mars, Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune. Only a few planets will be invisible to the naked eye. Mars and Saturn will be easy to spot. But astronomers wishing to see Uranus and will need binoculars, while those willing to see Neptune will need a telescope. Beginning on August 14th, just a few days after the parade, Venus will be at its brightest and outshine each star around it as it reaches its greatest eastern elongation, which is when it reaches its widest apparent separation from the sun. It will look like it's half lit, like a tiny lunar phase to the backyard astronomers who catch a glimpse of the planet through a telescope. While searching for the planets, don't be surprised if they look like stars using an astronomy app like StarWalk. A partial lunar eclipse will be at the end of August. On August 27th, there will be a lunar eclipse that will be visible in North and South America. Unlike the solar eclipse, the entire United States will see whole or part of the lunar eclipse. The East Coast and some of the Midwest will be able to experience the full partial lunar eclipse, which will cover 93% of the moon, according to NASA. The West Coast will be able to see some of the lunar eclipse. Trump admits construction error for reflecting pool damage. For the first time, President Donald Trump has acknowledged there was a construction error on the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, which is seeing another round of costly renovations. The initial construction cost more than $16 million, but the iconic Washington attraction had to be drained again after the 4th of July because the American flag blue liner that Trump ordered began peeling. He blamed vandals on the problems with the project, but after several people were accused of damaging the pool, the U.S. Attorney's Office for District of Columbia dropped all those charges. Trump lashed out at the U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, saying she needs to be revisit her hastily made decision. Now Trump has redirected some of the blame toward contractors for the first time. In a post on Truth Social on Sunday, the president said the reflecting pool will be open shortly after the new renovations. As with many jobs, there was some contractor error done by rushing the job for July 4th opening, but it was a very small area. This massive pool was relatively inconsequential, he wrote. Despite no video evidence pointing toward vandalism, Trump stopped short of placing all the blame on the contractors. He claimed the former Olympian David Hearn was seen by a National Park worker ripping at the pool's coating, but separate Park Service employee said the pool was already damaged before Hearn touched it. You're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio reading service, and the time is 12:32, and it's on to the money section. Trump ends Medicare prescription subsidy. Millions could see higher costs on plans in 2027. Millions of older Americans on Medicare could see higher monthly prices on their prescription drug insurance plans in 2027 after the Trump administration ends a subsidy program that pushed down prices. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services officials said they were ending a Medicare prescription drug plan subsidy implemented by the Biden administration lower prices because of changes ushered in by the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. The Biden administration gave billions of taxpayer money directly to big insurance companies, and this is unacceptable, said CMS Administrator Mehmet Oz in a social media post announcing the policy change. We are stabilizing the market, so this bailout is no longer needed. Oz said monthly premiums on their Medicare prescription drug plans, known as Part D, will increase by less than $10 for most enrollees, and some will see lower premiums. Medicare spent billions in lower Part D premiums in 2025 and 2026. CMS will release details in September on monthly premiums for Medicare premium drug plans, as well as privately administered Medicare Advantage plans. Consumers can review and change plans during Medicare open enrollment, which runs from October 15th through December 7th for coverage that begins January 1st. As of February, about 25 million people were in standalone Medicare Part D plan, often paired with traditional government-run Medicare insurance. Another 31 million were in a Medicare Advantage plan, Medicare plans administered by a private insurance company that typically include prescription drug coverage. A Trump administration official said the Inflation Reduction Act increased costs for prescription drug coverage. The climate and healthcare law imposed a $2,000 cap in 2025 on what Medicare enrollees paid out of pocket for prescription drugs. That cap increased to $2,100 in 2026. Under the Biden administration, CMS created a demonstration project that steered subsidies to insurance companies to keep premiums lower. The project cost the federal government $9.8 billion in 2025 in 26. Had it remained in place, one company, United Health Group, would have received a $1.5 billion, the Trump administration official said. United Health Group spokesman Eric Hausman said the insurer is committed to working with CMS to ensure insurers have access to affordable prescription medicines. But with the demonstration project now ended, some Part D recipients could see a larger premium increase for drug coverage next year than they faced in recent years. Under the Biden administration, the demonstration project aimed to stabilize Part D premiums and enrollment amid the changes from the Inflation Reduction Act. The average monthly premium for standalone drug plan fell from $43 in 2024 to $36 in 2026, and enrollment increased from 23 to 25 million. This temporary demonstration appeared to work as intended to stabilize year-over-year premium increases in enrollment. Employers that provide premium insurance drug coverage for prescription drugs have cited rising medication prices and increased use as one reason insurance prices are accelerating. Americans need $110,000 a year to afford a home. Mortgage rates ease slightly, but still over 6%. Americans still need to earn nearly $110,000 a year to comfortably afford the typical home for sale in the United States, even as housing affordability has shown moderate signs of improving over the past year. A new Redfin report found that an American household will need an income of $109,796 to purchase a median-priced home in June, while spending no more than 30% of that income on housing costs. And that's just 0.5% lower than the record high of $110,000 a year ago, meaning the income needed to buy a home has changed very little over the past year. The stabilization comes as household incomes have continued to rise alongside home prices. Redfin estimates the median U.S. household earned $88,000 in June, up 4% from a year ago, while the median home sale price increased 2%. Mortgage rates have eased slightly, but remained in the mid-6% range, keeping borrowing costs elevated. Even with those gains, according to Redfin, the typical household still needs about $22,000 less than what's needed to purchase the median-priced home and be financially comfortable. That's an improvement from the roughly $26,000 gap a year ago and the $29,000 2 years ago, but it remains a significant hurdle for many prospective buyers. Redfin defines a home as affordable when a buyer with a 15% down payment spends no more than 30% of their monthly income on mortgage payments, property taxes, and other housing costs. The earnings needed to buy a house have stabilized after several years of deterioration, but that doesn't mean homes are affordable to the average American. The market has become a bit more manageable for buyers because it's now a buyer's market in much of the country, giving shoppers more options and stronger negotiating power. Even so, many prospective first-time home buyers remain on the sidelines because the typical household still earns far less what's needed to afford a home and be financially comfortable. Redfin economists said affordability could improve slightly by the end of the year. However, the real estate company warned it could worsen if interest rates rise more than expected, oil prices increase further, or inflation accelerates. The report found buyers are spending a smaller share of their income on housing than a year ago. The typical home buyer would need to spend 37% of the income on a medium-price home, down from 39% last year. The decline comes as the median household income increased from $84,000 to $87,000, while the income needed to afford the home remained largely unchanged. Meanwhile, 34% of homes for sale were affordable for households earning the national median income. Where affordability is improving, so the largest affordability improved in 24 of 26 major metros areas that they analyzed. Seattle saw the largest improvement, with the income needed to afford the typical home falling 7% from a year ago. San Jose and Portland also saw some of the bigger drops. The income needed to afford a home fell 6.5% and 0.5% respectively. Think before you prompt. A one-man chatbot wants you to stop blindly trusting AI. In a world where we are accustomed to chatting up artificial intelligence, score one for the human touch. A new billboard recently popped up in the colorful collage of boastful signs at the epicenter of the AI boom in San Francisco. This one for ChatTJB bragged it was promoting the leading chatbot interface powered by AI. Soon people began using the service, but AI in this case doesn't stand for artificial intelligence. It stands for average individual. That individual is just a guy named Tucker Bryant. Bryant jokes that he has developed artisanal intelligence handcrafted by a single human being, a bespoke experience that is not an LLM or large language model, but an LLE, a single operator large language experience. Picture this, ChatGPT, but on the other hand, it's just me giving bad advice, said Bryant, a former Google staffer on YouTube. AI chatbots have become part of daily life in America. We ask for information, advice, encouragement, therapy, even companionship. In fact, these synthetic helpers have become so ubiquitous that Bryant is worried about our dependence on them. Too often, he says, we are letting chatbots think for us. So he's trying to raise awareness of cognitive surrender, a term from researchers at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton Business School, to describe how we blindly trust chatbots over our brains, even when their advice can so often be faulty or false. We are now so used to confident, fast, and smart-sounding answers from AI that we largely stop questioning them. Some of us are so far gone that the second we drop into that soothing, stark interface, we see the little thinking animation and the text come up letter by letter. Critical thinking skills go out the window. At first, he wanted to call his chat bot Bad GPT, but the domain was too pricey. So he set it for his own initials and began answering thousands of queries manually, much to the delight of thousands of users. Unlike ChatGPT, my answers will be slow. They probably won't be correct, or maybe they could be, but they'll be very cryptic, Bryant said. I want to have such an inconvenient experience with something that aesthetically looks like artificial intelligence that next time an LLM, which is a large language model, gives you what sounds like a reasonable answer, you should remember the time ChatDJB responded to your text question with a haiku about crows. No notes. Fantastic, one person commented on Reddit. OMG, I just love this. I just tried it out. Way more interesting than ChatGPT, that's for sure, another said. Asked how he could afford the billboard, Bryant replied he dug deep because he wanted one fewer billboard in San Francisco hawking a real AI company. If we all become the tiniest bit more likely to stop and think about the information fed to us by a smooth-talking chatbot, then his work area is done, Bryant said. ChatTJB answers questions to everything from house paint colors to imposter syndrome. With demand overwhelming Bryant, visitors are now greeted by this message. Site is overwhelmed, and so is the average individual. LOL. We'll be back. USA reached out today to Bryant for comment. His current plan, he wants to turn the one-man query engine into a community project. You're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 12:43. And here is Johnny C. Taylor's column, How to Improve Employee Retention. Johnny C. Taylor is a HR specialist. Question. We had a well-liked manager who took a position at another company last fall. We were sad to see the manager go, and unfortunately, in the time since, we've lost a number of additional employees who have essentially poached by this other company. These are all employees who are equally well-liked and I believe fit very well in our company culture and enjoyed their time here. What can we do to improve our employee retention? The answer, losing a respected manager is difficult. Losing talented employees soon afterward can be even more concerning. But before you conclude another company is poaching your people, ask yourself a question. Why are they choosing to leave? Not every departure represents a failure. Sometimes another opportunity is simply a better fit for an employee's goals, career aspirations, or stage of life. The key is identifying patterns. Healthy turnover is inevitable. Repeated turnover for the same reasons deserves your attention. Leadership transitions are one of the clearest tests of an organization's strength. They reveal whether you are invested in developing leaders at every level and are prepared for inevitable change. Strong managers earn trust, so it's not surprising when employees choose to follow a leader they respect. But no organization should depend on one exceptional leader to sustain employee engagement or retention. Every organization should prepare for a day a great leader moves on. And that's not pessimism, that's good succession planning. Instead of reacting emotionally, get curious. Exit interviews tell you why people left. Stay interviews help you understand why your best employees remain and what might cause them to leave. Both are valuable. Look for patterns instead of isolated stories. Are employees leaving because they don't see opportunities to grow? Do they feel supported by their managers? Are compensation, flexibility, or career development emerging as common themes? Understand the problem before rushing to fix it. Retention isn't built when employees receive another offer. It's built every day, long before they do. Employees are more likely to stay when they trust the leaders, receive regular feedback, feel recognized for their contributions, and see opportunities to grow. That kind of commitment is built through everyday conversations, meaningful coaching, and consistent investment in people's development, not during an exit interview or a last-minute counter offer. You can't prevent every talented employee from accepting another opportunity, nor should you try to. High performers will always attract attention from competitors. What you can do is create an environment where talented people choose to stay because they believe they're growing, because they believe their value, and because they believe they have a future. Measure your organization's success by the compelling reasons employees have to stay, not by whether one exceptional leader keeps them engaged. Organizations that consistently invest in their people develop leaders at every level and prepare for change doesn't just retain more talent. They build stronger cultures, stronger leadership pipelines, and stronger businesses. 19 are charged in the $4 million Pennsylvania home health care fraud cases. 19 people have been charged in connection with schemes that fraudulently billed Pennsylvania's Medicaid program more than $4 million for home health care services, federal and state authorities announced. The defendants include home care company owners, home health aides, and Medicaid recipients, who were charged with health care fraud and other related offenses. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania said August 4th. Prosecutors said the schemes involved false billing records, overlapping shifts, paying kickbacks to clients, and fraudulent clock-in and clock-out entries to collect Medicaid payments. Some home health aides sought reimbursement for care they purportedly provided while they were in jail, hospitalized or out of the country, working other jobs, or otherwise unavailable to assist patients. The Justice Department said. Federal authorities also described recurring patterns of impossible work hours, including one case in which a home health care aide came to care for more than 24 hours in a day on more than 1,100 occasions. Prosecutors said the aide billed for more than 64,000 hours that could not have been worked, resulting in more than $1.2 million in Medicaid payments. The great fraud against American taxpayer takes many forms, U.S. Attorney David Metcalf said in a statement. It's outrageous and unacceptable that anyone could steal money by billing non-existent home care services for caregivers who were in fact dead, in prison, or trafficking drugs. Health aides accused of billing Medicaid while in jail or hospitalized. Prosecutors charged several Philadelphia area home health aides and Medicaid recipients. One indictment charges Joseph Pizzo, 47 years old, and Tiziana Taormina with conspiracy and health care fraud. Prosecutors say Taormina submitted claims for health care services while Pizzo was incarcerated and was working in construction, leading to at least $160,000 in Medicaid payments. A separate indictment accused Donna Romstedt, 63 years old, and Alyssa Cuculino, 27, and Elizabeth Israel, 26, and Alexis Cuculino, a similar health care fraud offenses. According to prosecutors, Alyssa Cuculino and Israel were aides, and Romstedt and Alexis Cuculino were Medicaid recipients. Alyssa Cuculino billed for some health care services during the periods when she was working another job or hospitalized, while Israel submitted claims while in jail. According to the indictment, prosecutors said the scheme resulted in $444,000 in fraudulent payments. Authorities also charged Albert Cocosilla, 56 years old, and his son Santino Cocosilla, 28, accusing Santino Cocosilla of billing Medicaid for services he claimed to provide to his father while working as a rideshare and food delivery driver. Prosecutors said the fraud generated more than $11,000 in claims. In another case, prosecutors said Sean Murray, 28 years old, billed Medicaid about $400,000 for home care services that were not provided while he was at a gym, traveling, visiting a massage parlor, or selling drugs. Authorities accused him of paying kickbacks to clients to facilitate the scheme. Prosecutors also charged Charles Bowie, 53 years old, saying he billed Medicaid while traveling internationally, including trips to Saudi Arabia, Jamaica, and Colombia. Authorities said the scheme involved almost $600,000 in Medicaid billings, most of which were fraudulent. Another indictment includes Benevolent Home Health and its owners, Kalila Williams and Salima Davis, of healthcare fraud, conspiracy, and wire fraud. The company's owners allegedly obtained about $224,000 Medicaid payments through the scheme. Prosecutors accused the Philadelphia-based home health care company of billing Medicaid for services performed by Williams' husband while he was selling drugs and after he was arrested on drug trafficking charges. Davis and Williams were also accused of billing Medicaid for services allegedly provided by a home health aide who had died. Equifax's $2.2 million settlement. Do you qualify for payment? Thousands of consumers could be eligible for a payment from a $2.2 million class action settlement involving credit reporting company Equifax after a lawsuit alleged duplicate collection accounts appeared on some consumer credit reports. The proposed settlement resolves claims that Equifax violated the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act by reporting the same collection amount more than once on certain consumer credit reports in 2022. The duplicate reporting allegedly lowered some consumers' credit scores, in some cases affected their ability to obtain credit. Equifax denies any wrongdoing or violation of the law, and the court does not determine who is right. The company agreed to settle the lawsuit to avoid the expense and uncertainty for further litigation. An estimated 37,000 consumers are part of the settlement class. Eligible class members who were notified by Equifax may qualify for cash payments and complimentary credit monitoring if the settlement refuses final approval. What's it all about? The lawsuit was filed in a federal court in Georgia by plaintiff Charmaine Bradbury, who claimed Equifax reported the same collection account multiple times on her credit report. According to the complaint, Bradbury discovered in 2022 about a $305 collection account appearing more than once on her Equifax credit report. She said the duplicate reporting caused her credit scores to drop significantly and contributed to the denial of a mortgage application. The lawsuit contends Equifax failed to follow reasonable procedures to ensure maximum possible accuracy. Who qualifies the report? Consumers may be eligible if they received a notice from Equifax because the company records indicate they were part of the affected group. According to the settlement, eligible consumers had a duplicate collection report appear on the Equifax consumer report when their credit report was requested during the period at issue in August and September 2022. Notices were mailed or emailed to affected consumers, and claimants must use the notice ID, which begins with EQB and the PIN included in that notice to submit a claim. If you qualify, how much money can you expect? Consumers who submit valid claims affirming they were harmed by the duplicate reporting are expected to receive up to $600, although the final amount will depend on the number of approved claims. All settlement class members will also receive 6 months of Equifax Complete Credit Monitoring, including credit alerts and up to $500,000 in identity theft insurance coverage without filing a claim. Equifax also agreed to continue measures designed to prevent duplicate collection accounts from appearing on the consumer reports and remove any remaining duplicate amounts tied to the issue. How can you file a claim? Claims must be submitted through the official settlement website using Notice ID and PIN from the settlement notice. Consumers may also print and mail a claim form. The deadline to submit a claim form is September 1st. A final approval hearing is scheduled for October 6th, and payments will be distributed only if the settlement receives final approval and any appeals are resolved. An ancient Roman shipwreck is discovered by Italian divers. A group of Italian divers discovered a Roman shipwreck stocked with hundreds of ancient clay jars in the warm waters off the coast of Sicily. The ship is believed to date back to the 2nd or 1st century BC, according to the Italian Ministry of Culture. Divers located about 3 miles off the coast of Mazzara del Vallo, a city on the western coast of Sicily. Alessandro Giuli, Italy's Minister of Culture, described it as one of the most important underwater archaeological discoveries of recent years. Videos posted online by the Ministry of Culture shows divers swimming over hundreds of amphorae, clay jars used in ancient Greece and Roman societies to store goods like wine and olive oil. Fisherman Giacomo Del Mola said in an Instagram post that he and other divers were using sonar technology to survey the seafloor off the coast of Sicily when they came across what looks like an ordinary rock. Well, you're listening to a reading of articles from USA Today for Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We'll return for more readings after this short break. Your reader this past hour has been Alan Blackburn.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
continue now with our reading of articles from today's issue of the USA Today. Your reader for this hour is Patty Young. Sports. The 6-year itch. Steve Sarkisian goes on the clock among football coaches seeking a national title. Hugh Freeze's eyes got big a few years ago when someone pointed out Kirby Smart took Georgia to the national championship game in his second season. Freeze had been busy trying to downplay expectations early in his Auburn tenure, and he literally could not believe the reality of Smart's success timeline. His second year? Phew, Freeze said back then. I don't know that that's accurate, but anyway. Wikipedia exists to remind us Smart did indeed take Georgia to the national title game in his second season, which infamously ended on 2nd and 26 with the Bulldogs losing to Alabama in overtime. Smart's bio also reminds us he didn't win his first national championship until his 6th season. That's also true of Ryan Day. Day endured a what could have been finish in 2022 when Noah Ruggles' field goal attempt sailed wide left as the clock struck midnight of a college football playoff semifinal game against Georgia. If that kick splits the uprights, Day's Buckeyes would have beaten TCU in the national championship game that season. Instead, Day had to wait until the 2024 season to taste glory. Like Smart, Day's championship breakthrough came in year 6. Consider it college football's curious power of 6. Sure, Curt Cignetti ran along the fast lane to success. One wonders how big Freeze's eyes got when Indiana won a national championship. But a little patience proved necessary for each of college football's other active championship coaches. I bring that up because inside the nation's most pressure-packed conference, the SEC, 4 coaches are entering their 6th season at their current job. Let's take a status check of how close each appears to a national championship. Steve Sarkisian, Texas, could be on the brink of a title. Sark's Longhorns underachieved last season and became the first preseason #1 team in the U.S. LBM coaches poll to finish the season ranked outside of the top 10 since 2012 LSU. That hiccup does not change that Sarkisian's tenure remains on schedule for him to experience the year 6 success that came to Smart and Day. Sark is in possession of one of the most talented rosters in the country. Josh Heupel, Tennessee, doing fine but not on the verge of a title. Heupel reaching year 6 is notable because none of his Tennessee predecessors since Philip Fulmer reached a 6th season. Heupel is a force of consistency, serving nothing but winning seasons, and his offenses routinely rank among the nation's best. The Volunteers seem positioned for a top 25 season, but a national championship is not imminent. Heupel will break in a young quarterback, no matter whether Faison Brandon or George McIntyre wins the job. And although Tennessee made a strong hire of defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, his defenses tend to shoot up during his 2nd season on a staff, not the first. Shane Beamer, South Carolina, on the hot seat. Beamer is much closer to a firing than a national title, or an SEC title for that matter. He delivered some good times, but his 5th season became the low point. Beamer noted at the SEC Media Days, a lot of familiar faces return this season. Is that cause for excitement or trepidation? This group of guys served a 4-8 record on just one SEC win in 2025. At least Beamer made it this far. Only 5 Gamecocks coaches lasted longer than 6 seasons. Clark Lee, Vanderbilt, settled in, trending in right direction. Last season taught us a playoff bid doesn't have to be a pipe dream at Vanderbilt. Thanks to Diego Pavia, the Commodores were in contention right up to Selection Day. Their 10 wins set a program record. Can Lee do it again? Not this year, but the presence of five-star freshman quarterback Jared Curtis shows they're done being a doormat. Vanderbilt's patience in Lee has been rewarded, even if that reward never rises to the level of a national title. In the Big Ten's on-deck circle, now I present two coaches to consider outside of the SEC, Oregon's Dan Lanning and Southern Cal's Lincoln Riley. They are each entering year 5, and they talk as if they believe they built national championship contenders. It's time, Riley told ESPN and CBS earlier this offseason. The program's ready to contend. That's even more believable at Oregon, where Lanning's Ducks reached the semifinals last year before the Hoosiers steamrolled them. We're close, Lanning said to ESPN at Big Ten Media Days. Close enough to cut in line and achieve in year 5 what it took Smart and Day 6 seasons to do. That would be an eye-opening achievement. Rallying Brennan wins bid to playoff. Michael Brennan was far outside the FedEx Cup playoffs and needed a career week at Wyndham Championship to have any chance of getting inside the top 70. He took control August 9th on the front 9 with 5 straight birdies to pull away from the field notch his second career PGA Tour victory and jump 58 spots to 47th as the playoffs begin. Brennan finished Sunday 22 under after a 6-under 64 to top Beau Hossler by 3 strokes in the PGA Tour's regular season finale. Hossler led or co-led after all 3 rounds at the Wyndham, but the win he needed to make the playoffs came up just short as he finished 72nd in the regular season standings. I think really positive week for me. Stings a little bit, Hossler said. With that being said, very proud of my commitment today and was resilient top to bottom. Brennan and Hossler began the day tied at 16 under, but birdies on numbers 4 through 8 gave Brennan the lead for good after Hossler took a brief lead with an eagle on the par 5 fifth. Hossler had 2 bogeys over the next 10 holes before birdies at 16 and 17. It was too late of a move as he finished with a 3-under 67. Brennan's 5-birdie run put the tournament out of reach as he never held less than a 2-shot lead in the remainder of the tournament. His focus never lapsed despite taking control of the tournament. I've lost tournaments with bigger leads and shorter amount of holes remaining before, Brennan said. So I'm trying to just remind myself when I'm out there like, hey, there's a lot of golf left to be played. Brennan solidified the victory with a birdie on the 18th to secure his first win since last year's Bank of Utah Championship. This one is bigger, though, because it earned him a spot in the Masters next April. Brennan's mom, Shannon, greeted him on the 18th green to remind him that the win meant a free ticket to Augusta next spring. I was so excited about the Masters because I had been thinking about the FedEx Cup playoffs the whole week, like I knew that this was coming, he said. I swear I didn't even think about the Masters until my mom told me behind 18 green. It was more probably shock value of remembering that a win gets you in. Ben James shot a final round low 61 to finish 3rd at 18 under, while Kevin Yu finished 4th at 16 under. Harry Hall and Tom Kim tied for 5th at 15 under. Sedgefield Country Club is 25 miles down the road from Wake Forest, where Brennan won 8 times during his collegiate career. He adds to a list of Wake Forest winners in the event, including Cameron Young, 2025, Webb Simpson, 2011, Scott Hoch, 2001, and Lanny Watkins, 1983. Brennan visited the campus August 3rd to reflect on his college career. Yeah, it's awesome to be here in the Winston-Salem area, he said. Lived here for 4 years and loved my time in Wake Forest. I just walked around for a while. It was good to be back. On the bubble, rookie Jackson Colvin finished the regular season 70th for the final position in the FedEx Cup playoffs. Colvin rode the bubble during his 1-over-par 71 final round to finish 8 under and tied for 29th. He dropped to 71st after a bogey on the first, but after getting back to even par by the sixth hole, he remained inside the bubble. There's definitely some added pressure today. Felt it coming down the stretch, Koivu said. Just tried to stay committed and make good swings. Obviously, I wanted to make the playoffs, and I knew that was a far-fetched goal. If I told myself back in June that I would be sitting at 70 and waiting it out in Greensboro, I think I'd be pretty happy. In just 6 events this season, he tied Tiger Woods for the fewest needed to make the playoffs. Woods made the 2008 field, placing 70th in the regular season when 125 players qualified. The former Auburn standout has 3 top 25 finishes and a win at the 3M Open 2 weeks ago. Maddie Schmid dropped 2 spots but made the playoffs in 69th, while Ricky Castillo finished T49 Sunday to place 68th. Missing the FedEx Cup playoffs. On the opposite side of the bubble, Stephen Fisk finished 71st after starting the week 69th. Matt Wallace, 72nd, and Keegan Bradley, 73rd, breaking the Ryder Cup captain's 15-year playoff streak. Other notables to miss included Jason Day, 81st, whose 18-year showing came to an end after missing the Wyndham Championship cut, Brooks Koepka, 95th, and Tony Finau, 99th. What's the playoffs first round? The top 70 play next weekend in the FedEx St. Jude Championship before the field is cut to 50 for the BMW Championship in St. Louis. It will be cut down to the final 30 for the Tour Championship at East Lake in Atlanta. Scottie Scheffler leads the standings, followed by Matthew Fitzpatrick, Cameron Young, Wyndham Clark, and Chris Gotterup. Hesley Rivera's comeback will pay off for New Look USA. This might have been the best-case scenario for Hesley Rivera. The competition at the World Gymnastics Championships in October is going to be fierce. The Russians are back with a full team, and these Worlds are the first chance countries have to secure their spots at LA 28. That's new territory for Rivera. Sure, she has an Olympic gold medal, but this will be the first time the U.S. women will be counting on her rather than Simone Biles or Suni Lee to lead the charge. By having to dig herself out of a hole to win her second U.S. title on August 9th, Rivera showed she has the grit to thrive. Trailing by 0.6 of a point after the first day of competition, Rivera wound up winning by 1.15 points. She also won the title on balance beam and won second overall on floor exercise. I think it just shows how strong I am mentally, because physically, everything's there. But the mental aspect of things is definitely where it's at. You can't really do this without having a strong mentality, Rivera said. Youngest on the U.S. Olympic team. Rivera, now 18, was a surprise member of the Paris team, taking advantage of the opening created by injuries to 2-time world all-round medalist Shalise Jones and Sky Blakely at Olympic trials. Because Rivera had never even been to a world championship before, and because Biles, Lee, Jade Carey, and Jordan Childs were all returning Olympians, little was asked of the youngest member of the Team USA. Rivera wound up competing in only 2 events in Paris, both during qualifying. With her Paris teammates all taking last year off, Jones still out and Blakely taking her return slowly, the spotlight naturally shifted to Rivera. She embraced it, winning her first U.S. title in dominant fashion. That would have made Rivera a favorite for all-around medal, if not the title, at the 2025 World Championships. But she missed that event because of an ankle injury, which means this year's Worlds will be Rivera's first experience at the center of the pressure cooker. She cannot afford to get rattled or flustered or to fall apart because, as she goes, so will the whole U.S. team. With a spot at the Los Angeles Olympics on the line, Hesley did a fantastic job tonight rebounding from night 1 and just proving to herself and everybody else that that was just a little fluke and she's capable of so much, Carey said. And back-to-back national champion is something that she should be really proud of. Uneven bars fall puts her in hole. A fall off uneven bars on the first night of competition dropped Rivera down to fourth, with significant ground to make up on Claire Pease and Blakely, while Blakely had significant errors on both floor exercise and balance beam on the second day. Pease did not. If Rivera wanted a second title, she was going to have to earn it. I knew it was close because obviously day one and stuff, but I was not paying attention at all. I kind of just started looking down. I looked at my scores, and then I just looked down everywhere, just trying to keep my head in the game and focused, Rivera said. She started with a decent routine on uneven bars. It wasn't her best, it wasn't her worst, and she and Coach Valerie Lucan exchanged a look when she finished as if to say, it was fine. From then on, Rivera was on fire. Title earned, not just won. She was rock solid on balance beam with only a small wobble after her sheep jump. She landed her dismount so low she was still folded in half when she hit the mat, but her 14.4 was the highest score of nationals on the event and cut Peace's margin to a half point. Rivera's floor routine was dazzling. She got great height on her tumbling passes, and she stuck her landings as if she was landing in super glue. Her 14.3 was the second highest score of the day on the event, and after an out of bounds and other shaky landings by Pease was enough to put Rivera in the lead. She capped her night with a solid vault. Despite a long hold before she was cleared to go, Rivera soared high above the table and landed solidly, taking only a slight hop. The title and the added confidence it will bring were hers. It's a great thing for her, said Anna Lucan, Rivera's other coach. She is a lot more mature and a lot more confident right now. Good thing, because the Americans will be counting on her. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 17 minutes after the hour. Bieniemy returns to Chiefs camp as wife recovers. Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy has returned to practice August 10th following a 2-week absence as his wife Mia recovered from multiple gunshot wounds during an incident at the family's home in Ashburn, Virginia. Eric Bieniemy's son, Elijah, was charged with 3 felonies in connection to the incident July 26th, including malicious wounding and discharge of a firearm inside a dwelling. Mia was taken to a hospital to recover, and Eric immediately left the Chiefs to be beside her. Chiefs coach Andy Reid said Mia was in stable condition July 29th. According to The Athletic, Eric told fans as he walked to practice Monday, "It's going to be back." Bieniemy has not been distant from training camp, however. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes told reporters August 8th that Bieniemy has been in contact with the team while away and also was glad to hear that Mia was on the mend. "She's doing better now," said Mahomes, who is trying to fully recover from a torn ACL in December in time for Week 1. "So it's always great to hear the news from him about her, and it's been good to talk to him." Bieniemy has been meeting with the team via Zoom and live streaming practices, per Mahomes. I mean, he's still EB. It's not like he's not EB. And so he's calling you at the end of the night and talking to you about kind of throughout the day and all the plays and stuff like that, Mahomes said. Known for bellowing throughout the entire practice, Bieniemy's presence will be welcomed by the players, Mahomes said. "We'll be excited to get him back, but at the same time, we want him to take as much time as he needs to be with his family," Mahomes said. "But when he does come back, he'll be the most excited guy on the football field." Flag football. Macy Joncic chasing an Olympic dream. When 6-year-old Macy Joncic first stepped onto a football field full of boys, she was just trying to compete with her 2 older brothers. At the time, flag football was simply a recreational game. It wasn't played in high schools across the country. It hadn't reached college campuses, and it certainly wasn't an Olympic sport. 2 decades later, as flag football prepares for its debut at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, Joncic is pursuing a dream that didn't even exist when she entered the sport. Unlike most aspiring Olympians, she has no pathway to follow, no blueprint to look at, and no Olympian to imitate. Growing up, I never really had a flag football idol, Johnsich said. Not that there weren't amazing women out there playing the sport, but it wasn't marketed, it wasn't known. Johnsich took a chance on flag football long before the world acknowledged it. She began playing on a travel team out of Las Vegas when she was 14. 3 years later, she became the youngest player selected to the U.S. national team in 2024, just months after she graduated from Coronado High School. But as flag football has grown throughout the last 20 years, Johnsich has grown right alongside it, helping define a path for the generation behind her as she pursues her Olympic dream. It changed my mindset with everything that I do, Johnsich said. If I wake up in the morning and I don't want to work out, there's a little thing in the back of my brain that's saying, "You're going to be on the Olympic team. Go work out." Johnsich's story mirrors those of many young girls trying to navigate these new opportunities. A sport that was once overlooked is now accessible in all 50 states. Flag football has seen a 50% increase in participation since 2020, with more than 4.1 million youth participants recorded each year. Josh Saunders, the head coach of the 11-time Florida State champion Robinson High School, has witnessed that growth firsthand. Saunders got his start on the sidelines in 2006, just 3 years after Florida became the first state to sanction girls flag football as a varsity sport. Since then, he has also coached the University of Florida club team and the U17 junior national team, giving him a front row seat to the sport's growth across multiple levels. I stopped trying to imagine what could be next, because I would have been wrong about what the sport was capable of, Saunders said. It's one of those things that you just kind of let it do its thing. Since the start of Saunders' coaching career, 23 states have officially sanctioned the sport, and that number is only expected to grow. If you're not playing, then you're getting left out, Saunders said. You're almost doing high school kids a disservice. You're not taking away opportunities, but you're certainly not providing opportunities for kids to have. That growth of the sport at the high school level has sparked opportunities on college campuses. The National Intramural Recreational Sports Association announced its partnership with NFL Flag in May to create a new club league at colleges across the country. I haven't seen a sport grow this fast in my career, said Pam Watts, NERSA Executive Director. And the 7-on-7 League, which begins in January 2027, has 55 schools signed up, including powerhouses such as the University of Florida, University of Georgia, Clemson, University of Central Florida, and Penn State, among others. We were watching the growth in the youth and high school level and knew a big percentage of those folks were going to come to college and want to playing opportunities, Watts said. Johnsich was certainly one of those people. While she was originally hesitant about continuing her flag football career in college due to her aspirations of becoming a sports medicine physician, Saunders assured her of the opportunity to do both at the University of Florida. The Gators have competed as an independent club team, as many other schools have, since 2015. Since then, they have won 7 NERSA national championship titles, 2 of which Johnsich was a part of. For most people in the club, flag football is somewhere between the 6th and 15th most important thing in their life, Saunders said. For Johnsich, it was her desire to play flag football and academics, and that was that. After 2 years at Florida, however, Johnsich received an offer to transfer to Cal Poly and join its Division I varsity program starting in the fall. While it was a tough decision to leave Florida, she knew this opportunity would bring her closer to her Olympic goals. I wake up in the morning and I think about throwing a ball, or I think about catching a pass, Johnsich said. I always want to be doing it, and I always want to be doing something to be getting better at flag. Cal Poly is one of 13 Division I schools to add a varsity team. In May, the NCAA recommended flag football to become an NCAA championship sport and expects the first championship to occur in the spring of 2028. This is everyone's first time in a Division I program, Johnsich said, so there are going to be challenges along the way. But I really do think that we're going to build something that is very long-lasting and very respected overall. While Johnsich continues to pave her own path, she's not alone. I'm around these women with incredible experience and incredible knowledge of the game, Johnsich said. We don't necessarily have someone to look up to ahead of us per se, but we do have each other to look up to. As Johnsich enters this new chapter of playing Division I flag football and pursuing a spot on the Olympic team, she is now becoming the role model for future generations that she never had. I'm really glad that I took the risk, Johnsich said. I believed in the sport and in where it could go. Brewers replaced Dodgers Skubal at 1. Perhaps sometime in October, the Milwaukee Brewers will regret not trading for Tarik Skubal. For the moment, they are the best team in the major leagues and have one would-be Skubal pawn to partially thank for it. The Brewers ascended to number 1 in USA Today Sports MLB Power Rankings thanks to 2 one-run victories over the Minnesota Twins in a taut battle of Upper Midwest playoff contenders. Their series-clinching victory came in 10 innings on a Jake Bauers walk-off single, but it was a catch by right fielder Luis Lara in the top of the inning, his second fantastic grab of the day, that prevented a huge inning and put Milwaukee in position to win. Lara, 21, was among the players the Brewers roped off from Skubal talks, having signed him to a team-friendly extension and identifying him as a key part of their future. Ranked by Baseball America as the game's number 35 prospect, he boosted Milwaukee on a day Jacob Misiorowski made history, but couldn't close the deal. No matter, Milwaukee's 74-44 record gives it a 3-game edge over Atlanta for best in the National League as the Brewers maintained a 5.5-game lead over the relentless Chicago Cubs. Commentary. Coach wants players to go pro, but not to Big 12. Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Fresno State. One of those is not like the others until you realize it is. Perhaps quietly, after an ahead-of-schedule 9-win debut season in 2025, Matt Entz has Fresno State as a potential Group of 6 college football playoff contender and presumptive challenger in the reborn Pac-12. The Bulldogs, after all, returned 14 of 15 starters, depending on how you want to look at it, he told USA Today Sports. Notre Dame and Oregon tout 15 returning starters. Georgia and Southern Cal also are among power conference teams fielding some of the sport's most experienced rosters with at least 14 returners. There's the potential for more for Fresno. I think our players are seeing that. Hey, this experience is bigger than just me. I can get wherever I want from Fresno State, Entz said. Now at the same time, we have another successful season. It's going to get harder and harder to retain some of these players because, again, there are lucrative opportunities out there. And I talk about that in recruiting. We're utilizing that to keep kids here. We're going to help you get the next contract, some way, somehow. I don't know if that's in the SEC, the Big Ten, or the NFL, but we'll figure it out as we kind of navigate this. Entz, the former football championship subdivision national title winning assistant and head coach of North Dakota State, also has a remarkable vision for building his Bulldogs roster for sustainability via new NCAA rules. After bringing aboard a school record 15 freshmen as January enrollees, Entz believes the timetable for college football players to contribute is dramatically shifting and instructs his Fresno staff to lean into what the NCAA terms the age-based eligibility model and what everyone calls 5 for 5. With this 5-year rule, what we've started to do with this 5-year eligibility piece is say, hey, 3 years at Fresno State can set you up for the next opportunity, Entz told USA Today Sports. And then you still have 2 years to go to Alabama or Texas. But going to the Big 12 isn't a big enough jump. You have to go to the Big 10, SEC, or NFL. With more than 20 of his former players in the NFL and Power 4 transfer starters such as Miami running back Marty Brown, a former Entz signee at North Dakota State, Entz and his staff are reshaping the contributor timetable for newcomers. All we've done is we've tried to accelerate that a little bit in our recruiting, said Entz, whose Bulldogs battered Boise State last year and won the Arizona Bowl. One of the biggest things that we're looking for, of course, they have to be the fit. They've got to check all the boxes: athleticism, toughness, football IQ, character. All those matter. But the other piece that we ask now is, are you going to be able to enroll early? Those 15 players who enrolled early now are going to have an opportunity. Entz also is embracing the vision of his athletic director, Garrett Classy, whose experience includes Alabama and Houston in upper cabinet roles. Classy's vision for Fresno's Valley Co-op has Entz touting a quadrupled monetary investment into the Bulldogs football roster and sees Classy linking it to the region. I need coaches. I needed more boots on the street, for a lack of a better term, because it couldn't just be myself. It couldn't just be our Bulldog Foundation staff out there, Classy says of the program, which he relates to the San Joaquin Valley's 3 million residents and agricultural roots. And the coaches, it's really resonated with the coaches, and we do have a lot of supporters that give to multiple programs. There's 2 areas where we can make up ground on the rest of the league, and that's philanthropic giving, and that's corporate sponsorship. And so we need to grow those immensely. And we're going to announce a record fundraising year, which is $5 million more annually than it was the previous year. Corporate sponsorships with the jersey patches are almost across the finish line. We should be up $2 to $3 million in that area. Now that doesn't make a big difference in the SEC or Big 10, but that makes a huge difference for us. Classy envisions the 4,300 member Valley Co-op swelling to 7,000 across the next year. Entz, meanwhile, wants Fresno football to live up to its billing as the region's top draw. There's been an investment from an administrative standpoint, understanding that we need to have a football program that's good at Fresno State, said Entz, specifically citing Classy and Fresno President Dr. Saul Germain Sandoval. We have a ton of history and tradition. We're the biggest show in town in the Valley, and people want to see a good product on the field. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 33 minutes after the hour. Life section of the USA Today. Star Trek star Shatner. I never thought about dying. In 2016, William Shatner walked into his Studio City office for a USA Today photo shoot marking the 50th anniversary of Star Trek to find his desk overrun with Tribbles, the furry creatures from the beloved 1967 episode, The Trouble with Tribbles. The star, forever known as Captain Kirk, unceremoniously swept the carefully arranged props off his desk and proceeded with a Tribble-free photo shoot. A decade later, sitting in the same office, Shatner, 95, insists he has no memory of the great Tribble desk purge. Was it done humorously? Shatner asked earnestly, insisting he has no beef with the furiously breeding sci-fi creatures from the comedic episode Tribbles Are Good. Tribbles are a metaphor for uncontrolled activities of humanity. Like Tribbles, the enduring fascination with TV's Star Trek seems to multiply without end. As creator Gene Roddenberry's groundbreaking series approaches the 60th anniversary of its premiere on September 8, 1966, Shatner remains fascinated by the amazing journey of the original show that lasted just 3 seasons, 1966 through 1969, before NBC canceled it, yet turned the USS Enterprise crew, starting with Shatner's captain, into global icons. I think if you polled the entire human population and asked them, you know that mediocre and barely surviving television show that's on Friday nights at 10 o'clock with nobody watching, Shatner says, I don't think you'd find anyone saying it would still be in our consciousness 60 years later. But after Paramount sold the 79 episodes into syndication, Star Trek exploded in popularity, finding a devoted Trekkie audience that turned the series into a global entertainment empire that has spawned feature films and multiple generations of TV spin-offs, from Star Trek The Next Generation to the current Star Trek Starfleet Academy. The show gets canceled. I worked diligently for 6 years, and I hear they're going to resurrect it because syndication was invented, Shatner says. Everyone became enamored. Star Trek was invented again. Shatner says his joy was tempered by the lack of cash flowing with the new success. The unions had not discovered syndication fees, he said. I received no money and became famously poor. But the classically trained Canadian actor, famed for his distinctive dramatic line delivery, has remained rich in staying power. Along with starring in the police drama T.J. Hooker, 1982-86, and earning Emmy Awards for his portrayal of attorney Denny Crane on The Practice and its spin-off, Boston Legal, 2004-2008, Shatner has remained relevant deep into his 90s. At age 90, Shatner became the oldest person to fly to space as a passenger aboard Blue Origin's New Shepard in October 2021. After returning to Earth, he gave a tearful account of seeing the beauty of the endangered planet from space. I weep more so than ever, he says. We're destroying the Earth, and this planet has such beauty and miracles. I'm passionate about what we've done to the planet. Shatner battled cancer along with daughter Melanie. The actor says he was profoundly affected by his own fight for survival after being diagnosed with stage 4 malignant melanoma in June 2023. His nearly fatal ordeal began when a seemingly harmless lump on his cheek continued to grow. My family doctor says, we've got to get this out. And it was a stage 4 malignancy. 10 years ago, I would have been dead, Shatner says. Imagine going into your doctor's office and he says, pack your bags, you've got 5 months to live. The emotional weight of Shatner's own diagnosis was compounded by another devastating reality. His youngest daughter, Melanie Shatner Gresh, now 62, had been battling stage 4 breast cancer since 2022. Father and daughter suddenly found themselves fighting cancer at the same time. She too was told, pack your bag, you've got 5 months at the most, Shatner says. Can you imagine being told you've got 5 months to live? I don't know what your motivations are or what you'd want to do first, but to be told you've only got 5 months to live, and part of that time you're going to be very ill. What are you going to do? So it was the two of us. Though Shatner's melanoma spread to his lungs and brain, he says he is now cancer-free after surgery and 2 years of immunotherapy. Melanie, too, is cancer-free after chemotherapy, a double mastectomy, radiation, and immunotherapy. We're cancer-free, says Shatner, who has launched the wellness podcast No Time But Now with his daughter. We're totally in the clear. Shatner was affected by cancer battle. I'd blundered through life. Shatner, who drew criticism for missing the funeral of his longtime friend and co-star Leonard Nimoy in February 2015, was profoundly affected by his brush with mortality from cancer. I never thought about dying. I wandered and blundered through life thinking, I'm not going to die, Shatner says. It was like, of course I'm going to get this job. I'm going to drive up to a popular restaurant and somebody pulls out of a space and I park. It's like the universe was taking care of me on a minutiae scale, as seen by the incredible luck I've had in my life. That worldview has worn off like a callus, he says, leading to a deeper appreciation for every moment in his life, right down to the buttermilk chicken he had for dinner the evening before. But the fear is still there. When asked to name a passion that is heightened with age, Shatner cites staying alive. Not dying. That's always a good thing, he says. I'm always anxious about that. I've thought about dying a lot. The Star Trek legend insists he's not concerned about his legacy after he has left Earth for the final frontier. Legacy is not a word I recognize. Statues are torn down, buildings with people's name on them erode. The world is in constant change. The only legacy I recognize is doing good. I'm human, with my terrible faults, but I'm an admirer of good deeds. Books. Why We Can't Stop Arguing About Yesteryear and What It Says About Us. No 2026 novel ignites debate like Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burke. The Tradwife satire is on late-night shows and in book clubs plastered all over social media, and commuters' hands on public transit and sparking fiery comments on Goodreads. Some love it, some hate it. No one can stop talking about it. As someone who reads for a living, what fascinates me most aren't the books that get book lovers talking, but the ones that get everyone else reading. Not every year has a book that so permeates the culture like Yesteryear and Strangers by Belle Burden. One is about a tradwife, traditional wife influencer, seemingly sent back in time to the period she has been cosplaying. In the other, a memoir, the author realizes she never really knew the man she married. These two debuts are more alike than you realize. They're both polarizing. No one can agree on how to feel about them, which makes them endlessly ripe for book clubs. They're also both about the eruption of the perfect life. What happens when it all goes belly up? What if it was never perfect to begin with? And what does it say about us that we can't stop reading about it? How Yesteryear bottled the tradwife debate. Nearly 2 years before Yesteryear was published, Deadline reported Amazon MGM had won an auction to adapt the book into a film produced by and starring Anne Hathaway. In April, Yesteryear arrived into a cultural landscape fascinated with tradwife content, devoted wives who cook from scratch, sew clothes, and raise their brood among nature. Just 3 months later, Yesteryear sold its millionth copy. Its sales data, that Knopf executive vice president and publisher Jordan Pavlin calls the stuff of legends. We knew from the moment we first read the manuscript that it had the potential to be a sensation. It was electrifying. We couldn't stop talking about it. It set the whole house on fire, Pavlin tells USA Today. The success of this decade-defining publication, Pavlin believes, is due to the diabolically brilliant nature of the novel. Its protagonist, Natalie Heller Mills, is a flawless Christian woman with millions of followers to whom she advertises a humble homemaker life without disclosing how much of it is a lie. The buzzy subject matter also helps Natalie's rural farm life, sourdough making, and gaggle of children draw comparisons with Hannah Neeleman, the influencer behind Ballerina Farms, more than 10 million followers. Neeleman said in an interview with Vulture that she was only surprised an entertaining book about tradwives didn't come sooner. These traditional views of gender and marriage are nothing new, but influencers make them more visible, says Kristen Kobes-Dumez, a history professor at Calvin University in Michigan, and the author of the upcoming book, Live, Laugh, Love, The Secret History of White Christian Women and the World They Made. Prominent conservatives are embracing tradwives as political strategy. Every woman is involved in this in one way or another, either participating in it, reacting to it, feeling judged by it. And so it's a very contested space and a very personal space, which means every woman has an opinion, Dumez says. That generates this conversation, which just generates more conversation, and that's great if you're trying to sell a book on the topic. Yesteryear and Strangers tackle the collapse of perfection. Strangers is a fundamentally different book. a memoir from a Vanderbilt heiress and attorney set in luxury Manhattan apartments and second homes in Martha's Vineyard rather than prairie farms. Burden writes about her husband's betrayal and leaving with a raw vulnerability. But both runaway debuts confront the distance between the ideal and the real, says Dumas. Both touch on the false promises sold to women across the aisle. This is how you have the perfect life, the perfect marriage, the perfect family. Burden's life was perfect until it wasn't. Natalie's was never perfect to begin with. She points to similar stories like Awake by Jen Hatmaker. In this 2025 memoir, Christian blogger Hatmaker awoke in the middle of the night to her husband whispering into his phone, confessing his love for another woman. And more recently, influencer and nurse Jen Hamilton revealed to her nearly 5 million TikTok followers that her husband had been allegedly living a double life. The morbid curiosity and drama can make these stories feel like a train wreck we just can't look away from. But it's also a welcome deconstruction of the aspirational life. In Yesteryear, we see deceit catch up with our protagonist. In Strangers, we watch Burden discover it. Nothing is as it seems, not on social media, not in affluent country club circles, and maybe not even to those we love. Burden's story inspired many women to rethink their shared finances. At a certain point, the whole thing breaks apart, Dumas said. Then there's this questioning, what lies have I been sold? And I think in those moments, too, there's a need to go public with that, to share the story, to connect. If you go online with your story, you will immediately find other women who will support you, who will relate to you, and who will help you process in public. Hallmark of a mega bestseller. Can you argue at your book club? However you feel after reading these buzzy books, there's no denying the fundamental aspect that has kept them on bestseller lists. We love to argue about them. When my book club friends and I discussed Strangers months ago, we couldn't come to a consensus. Burden's story of divorce was horrific, but some felt she wasn't forthcoming enough about her privilege and financial security, the subject of a New Yorker investigation in May. Similarly, we're torn on Yesteryear. Some loved the unlikable Natalie. Others didn't feel she's believable. And don't even get us started on the twist. Yesteryear is also controversial for its portrayal of religion. Burke opted not to name a specific sect and was open about ceasing research after she started writing. Some Christian women, along with those who have left similar lifestyles, don't feel it accurately captures their experience. Others feel the novel was one of the first successful thrillers of recent cultural obsessions. I think that the book is so successful in part because it's so messy, Dumas says. Everybody can come to it from their own place and then have opinions. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 48 minutes after the hour. Social media. Why the traumatic Perez Hilton video stayed online. When Perez Hilton was seen self-harming in a TikTok live Tuesday night, the platform's automated content moderation system quickly flagged the live stream and alerted the American Content Moderation Team, its spokesperson tells USA Today. But a moderator error caused a delay in taking down the disturbing live stream. Users on X have noticed that visuals from the incident still remain available on the platform. TikTok said the duration of the live stream was 15 minutes, not the 30 that has been reported elsewhere, and it also closed several subsequent streams by Hilton within 90 seconds. TikTok also noted that Hilton's account has been banned outright due to Hilton breaching the social media platform's community guidelines. But parts of the explicit live stream continue to circulate on X. Why does content like this stay available longer than the platforms intend, and how do they try to curb it? How platforms try to moderate potentially harmful content. Each of the platforms has its own policies that do not permit the depiction of self-harm or suicide. We have a zero-tolerance policy for ads that promote, depict, glorify, endorse, or document suicide, self-harm, or dangerous behaviors which may lead to these, TikTok's reads. Though X did not respond to a request for comment and Meta declined to comment, Instagram has a policy with similar language, as does X and YouTube. A spokesperson for YouTube pointed to its policy. Screenshots from the graphic stream are still available on X as of the publication of this article. X was bought by Elon Musk in 2022, who made large structural changes at the company, including firing a large portion of the content moderation team. Since then, the app has faced intense scrutiny of its moderation policies. Content moderators at any social media company often are under immense strain when doing their job. Not only do they frequently have to look at the most disturbing content, but they have an overwhelming amount of content to moderate. In an article written by the Harvard Business Review, the author found that moderators face a host of challenges: old interfaces that keep them from reviewing content as efficiently as they'd like to, poor pay, and the scrutiny they face while being evaluated. For example, how many cases they went through and whether their supervisor agrees with their decisions on videos. Jessica Maddox, an internet culture researcher and an associate media studies professor at the University of Georgia, says that content moderation is like whack-a-mole because some things pop up, you knock it down, and several other things pop up in its place. She's sympathetic to the difficult nature of content moderation, but argues that the human error that occurred keeping the live stream up for 15 minutes is indicative of the fact that there should be an automatic removal process in place that is more immediate. If something was removed that wasn't deemed harmful, it should be restored, Maddox says, which is a version of the system that's in place. However, there have been multiple instances where this harmful content falls through the cracks. The ability to find this graphic content has become mainstream, Maddox tells USA Today. Social media was made for this violence. This type of violent content that we are exposed to on social media is not antithetical to social media's values. It is indicative of their values. Take Charlie Kirk's assassination, for example. The video was widely shared on X, and if you search for it, videos from different angles still exist. These graphic videos used to live in darker corners of the internet that weren't as easily available as they are today. Other violent live streams. On the same day as Hilton's live stream, a Mexican influencer with over 600,000 TikTok followers was shot and killed during a live stream. Blurred out and edited videos of the shooting are still currently available on the platform. In 2020, TikTok had 2 major instances of not removing graphic content in a timely manner. The first was a Brazilian influencer who live-streamed his suicide to an audience of over 200 people, The Intercept reported, and the video remained on the platform for over an hour and a half. That same year, in September, a veteran named Ronnie McNutt live-streamed his suicide on Facebook, and clips of the stream were uploaded to TikTok and other social media platforms. The platforms raced to take down the videos, but they kept being re-uploaded. One of McNutt's friends, Josh Steen, spoke to Heavy following the spread of the video and argued that Facebook did not do enough to take the video down. Facebook could have stopped this and didn't, Steen told the publication. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other social platforms could ban accounts, IPs, and stop the spread of this video. YouTube can flag you for using 2 seconds of a copyrighted song, but can't seem to filter out my friend ending his life. It does not make sense. Maddox argues that all of the platforms fall short in this area, which is a detriment to community building, career building, conversations, and other positive aspects of the internet. The algorithmic trend economy of social media has incentivized everyone participating in the viral conversation of the day to get clicks, likes, views, growing an audience, even if that's detrimental to people's mental health, Maddox says. In the absence of meaningful intervention from the platforms, the only people we can rely on are ourselves, she adds, Do not seek out the video, because if you do, it incentivizes creators and users and platforms to keep pushing it. So I do think in this age, the best and most radical thing we can do is deny something like this our attention. Movies. Killer Kids. Roth talks horror flick Ice Cream Man. If you try to joke with director Eli Roth that his latest slasher film, Ice Cream Man, in theaters August 7th, ruins the summer ritual for kids and adults, he'll beat you to the punchline. I've ruined a lot of things, Roth, 54, tells USA Today. I've ruined backpacking, Hostel. I've ruined going to the cabin, Cabin Fever. And I've ruined Thanksgiving. Why not? The holiday that features turkey and pumpkin pie served as the title for his 2023 slasher. Roth directed, produced, co-wrote, and plays a role in Ice Cream Man, in which the aforementioned sweet treat deliverer, Ari Millen, dishes out ice cream to the local kids. The byproduct of eating the dessert is a little more horrifying than your typical childhood sugar rush. The director started to ideate the premise of the film about 20 years ago. We could have got it at the market, but somehow the ice cream always tasted better coming off a truck, he says. And then in the 80s, there were some sketchy ice cream dudes, and I saw all the kids there, and I thought, what if the ice cream just made them go crazy, and they killed all the adults? That brings up a key difference between this movie and Roth's past horror films. He needed to cast a number of children to play the slashers. I was really upfront with the parents, the director says. I explained exactly what we were going to do, and I talked about why I wanted to make this movie. And they were like, yeah, great, no problem. Roth also reveals that the children who landed roles in the movie were unaffected by the premise to the point where many of the props became toys. The kids are playing jump rope with intestines and tetherball with a hat, Roth remembers. It's like Christmas morning for them. When we put the kids in the makeup, there was no direction required. Set rules required that parents have visual eye contact with their children at all times, he says. They understand Halloween, Roth added. The parents actually said, this is great, so when we watch a scary movie, they'll know how it was done. Eli Roth merges horror and hip-hop with Ice Cream Man. Roth will release Ice Cream Man through the horror section, an independent film company he founded. The movie is also produced through a partnership with Mass Appeal, the entertainment company founded by Nas. But he's not the only hip-hop legend involved in Roth's latest release. Snoop Dogg contributed Ice Cream Song to the film's closing credits. He also assisted in the movie's score. Roth says the rapper, born Calvin Broadus Jr., texted him the original song after a quick conversation the two had about the film. This won't be their last collaboration. Roth and Snoop are set to co-produce a horror flick with the NSFW title, Don't Go in That House, Bitch. The director says their partnership comes naturally because their mutual love for hip-hop and horror. It was like a joke fake trailer, Roth says, of the origins of Don't Go. When Snoop saw it, he asked to play the neighbor who warns people about the haunted home. Roth also pulled the rapper in as a producer. We're going to make Don't Go in That House, Bitch, because we just find it funny. I'm still internally a perpetual 15-year-old. I get that excited about horror movies. You've been listening to a reading of the USA Today for August 11th. We read the USA Today weekdays at noon. For more information, call us at 821-5555. Your reader for this hour has been Patty Young.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have episode number 7 of Wayward Girls by Susan Wiggs. Following that, at 3 o'clock is National Geographic, and at 4 o'clock is a re-airing of today's Buffalo News. Stay with us. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability